without memory, there's no life. And that's the way I'd feel.
After her death, Lee Radziwill's will has unveiled surprising insights into her personal life, a true socialite in every sense. From her impeccable style to her commanding presence, Lee captivated the world. Yet beyond the glamour captured on camera lay a reality few could have imagined. What secrets did she reveal about her life? What personal struggles did she face? Join us as we uncover why Lee Radziwill chose to leave her fortune to just one person. A glimpse into Lee's final wishes. More details regarding Lee, a beloved socialite and the younger sister of former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, who passed away at 85 from natural causes, have come to life. The will she signed just a few months before her death sheds light on her final wishes, her life, and the distribution of her estimated $50 million estate. The primary beneficiary of her estate is her lone surviving child, Anna Christina Tina Radziwill. Surprisingly, Lee's daughter-in-law, Carol DeFalco Radziwill, known for her role on The Real Housewives of New York City, was left out entirely. The 16-page document, filed in New York County, does not mention Carol at all. This omission has raised eyebrows, especially given Carol's high-profile marriage to Lee's late son, Anthony Radziwill. Lee's will also excluded her niece, Caroline Kennedy Schlossberg, and her 3 children, Rose, Tatiana, and John. This is particularly notable considering the close ties within the Kennedy family. Interestingly, when Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis passed away in 1994, she ensured that each of Lee's children received $500,000, though Lee herself was not included in Jackie's will. Jackie explained this by noting that she had already provided for her sister during her lifetime. At the time of her death, Lee was residing in a co-op apartment at 160 East 72nd Street in Manhattan. She had previously split her time between New York and Paris, where she maintained a pied-à-terre. Despite her glamorous lifestyle, sources suggest that Lee often faced financial difficulties and relied on her sister for support. This aspect of her life is illuminated by the mention of a trust set up for her decades ago by their mother, Janet Lee Auchincloss. The trust, created in 1975, was designed for Lee's benefit, giving her a special power of appointment over its principal. Upon Lee's passing, this trust, along with others in her and her mother's names, now benefits Tina. The principal value of these trusts remains undisclosed, but they are a significant part of Lee's estate. Lee's will instructed her executors to sell any cooperative apartment she occupied at the time of her death, including the proprietary lease and associated shares of stock, and to include the proceeds as part of her residuary estate. This includes the sale of her Manhattan apartment, which she had been trying to downsize since 2017, listing it for $4 million. Throughout her storied life, Lee reportedly struggled with finances. Despite the money left to her by her 3 husbands, most notably the wealthy director and producer Herbert Ross, she often found herself in need of financial help. Lee Bouvier Radziwill's will provides a rare glimpse into the complexity of her life and relationships. While her final wishes have sparked curiosity and speculation, they also highlight her enduring bond with her daughter Tina, who now carries forward her legacy. What is Tina currently doing? And what kind of life is she building for herself? An interesting legacy. Tina, now 58, has always preferred a life away from the spotlight. At her mother's funeral, she didn't receive much attention compared to her famous Kennedy cousin Caroline and other well-known figures. Tina lives in New York City and works as a producer. She was briefly married to Ottavio Arancio, a professor of medicine at Columbia University, from 1999 to 2005, and they didn't have any children together. Her father was Lee's second husband, the late Polish Prince Stanislaw A. Radziwill. The couple divorced in 1974, and he passed away 2 years later in 1976. A noteworthy moment from her early life was her baptism in June 1961 at Westminster Cathedral in London, attended by her uncle, President John F. Kennedy. Tina is also distantly related to the current British royal family, descended from Sophia of Hanover. However, because she is Roman Catholic, she isn't in the line of succession to the British throne. Lee's will, signed just a few months before her death, revealed some surprising details. Instead of naming Tina or another family member as the executors, Lee appointed 2 friends, Hamilton, south of Cornwall, Connecticut, and Martin B. O'Connor II of Harding Township, New Jersey. Hamilton South, who was also a close friend of Lee's niece, the late Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, gave the eulogy at Lee's Requiem funeral mass. On the day of the funeral, he tweeted, "Lee Radziwill was superior to everyone. She left this world underwhelmed by us all." On the other hand, Martin B. O'Connor II is the managing partner of the law firm O'Connor, Morse & O'Connor. In a letter dated August 22, 2018, Lee expressed her confidence in O'Connor's integrity and abilities, mentioning his financial acumen as a key factor in her decision. The executors can earn a commission of 2 to 4% of the estate's value. For example, if the estate is valued at $1 million, they would receive $34,000 in commissions. Lee's relationship with her daughter-in-law, Carol DeFalco Radziwill, waxed and waned following the tragic death of her son, Anthony Radziwill, in 1999. Despite the ups and downs, they supported each other after Anthony's death. In a touching tribute, Carol wrote about how Lee always introduced her as her daughter-in-law, even after Anthony's passing, showing their enduring bond. Many notable figures attended Lee's funeral, including her old flame Peter Beard, fashion designers Marc Jacobs and Tory Burch, socialite Dita Blair, and others. After the service, Lee's wicker casket was taken for cremation, and her ashes were later presented to Tina. Lee's will also specified that her funeral expenses be paid promptly, and that no extraordinary measures be taken to avoid paying any death taxes. Despite her financial struggles, she ensured her final arrangements were taken care of. What life did Lee Radziwill lead before her death? Let's explore the exploits she made in the entertainment world. A true chameleon. Lee Radziwill was a true chameleon who thrived in a world that strictly adhered to the status quo. She was born Caroline Lee Bouvier into a prominent New York family. Her father, stockbroker John Vernew Blackjack Bouvier III, came from a family that made its fortune in fine furniture, firewood distribution, and real estate. Her mother, Janet Norton Lee, was a socialite, and her older sister was none other than Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. Lee was considered the leading debutante of her era, even gracing a full-page photograph in the debutante section of Life magazine in December 1950. Lee's life was nothing short of fascinating. She managed to connect with people from all walks of life, touring with the Rolling Stones, spending weekends in Montauk with Andy Warhol, and jet-setting with Giorgio Armani. She even married a prince. Lee tried her hand at acting and had a brief stint as an interior designer, showcasing her versatility and adaptability. In 1962, Lee met Truman Capote, and they quickly became great friends and collaborators. Capote even wrote Laura for her, though it didn't go particularly well. Their friendship hit a rough patch when Capote published La Côte Basque, 1965, which mentioned Lee and her sister Jackie by name. This story is now portrayed in the new series Feud, Capote versus the Swans, with Callista Flockhart playing Lee Radziwill. Lee's first marriage was to publishing executive Michael Temple Canfield in April 1953. They divorced in 1958, and Lee then married Polish aristocrat Prince Stanislaw Albrecht Radziwill. After their marriage, she styled herself as Her Serene Highness Princess Caroline Lee Radziwill and was referred to as Princess Radziwill in the American press. The couple had 2 children together, but divorced in 1974. Lee's final marriage was to American movie director Herbert Ross, best known for directing Footloose. Throughout her life, Lee Radziwill navigated and thrived in various social circles. Her connections with iconic personalities like Truman Capote and Andy Warhol, coupled with her aristocratic marriage, added spice to her intriguing life story. Despite facing personal and professional ups and downs, Lee managed to carve out her own identity while living in the shadow of her famous sister, Jackie Kennedy. But there's a more intriguing aspect of Lee's life. What aspect is this? A true style icon. Lee Radziwill was inducted into Vanity Fair's International Best Dressed Hall of Fame in 1996. Giorgio Armani once summed up her style perfectly. She is strong-willed and feminine in a non-stereotypical manner. She expresses her style by reducing, not adding. She stays true to herself. She's beyond passing trends. Lee's first Armani outfit was a large black and white striped top with pointed shoulders, paired with a long black velvet skirt. Her unique style and presence eventually led her to become the director of special events for Armani. Armani himself fondly remembered these events, saying that they hardly felt like work because of their great understanding and harmony. Lee's talents didn't stop at fashion. She also had a career as an interior decorator, often collaborating with renowned Italian architect Renzo Mongiardino. Her homes in New York, Paris, London, and Buckinghamshire were a study in layered interiors and rich textiles, showcasing her impeccable taste and design skills. Another fascinating aspect of Lee Radziwill's life was her relationship with Truman Capote. They first met over lunch in 1962, when Lee was married to a prince, and her sister, Jacqueline Kennedy, was the First Lady of the United States. During that lunch, Lee apparently expressed her jealousy of her sister, and Capote later wrote to his friend, photographer Cecil Beaton, about it. Despite the gossip, Capote remained close to Lee and even became one of her confidants when Jackie agreed to marry Lee's former lover, Aristotle Onassis. Lee was devastated, and Capote was there to support her during this difficult time. In 1967, Capote was determined to make Lee a star. He cast her in productions of The Philadelphia Story and an adaptation of the 1944 noir Laura. Unfortunately, her television debut in 1968 received negative reviews from critics. Despite this, Capote continued to praise Lee, telling People magazine in 1976 that she was a remarkable woman with all the qualities people admired in Jackie: looks, style, and taste. Yet it was Lee who lived in Jackie's shadow. Let's shift our focus to Jacqueline Kennedy, the former First Lady of the United States, whose influence played a significant role in Lee Radziwill's life, a mother and a leader. Janet Bouvier, their mother, was an accomplished rider, and Jackie was just a year old when her mother first put her on a horse. By age 11, Jackie had already won several national championships. The New York Times wrote in 1940 about an 11-year-old Jacqueline Bouvier who scored a double victory in a horsemanship competition, a rare distinction for a young rider. Jackie also had a love for reading. Before she even started school, she had read all the children's books on her shelves. Her heroes included Mowgli, from Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, Robin Hood, and Scarlett O'Hara, from Gone with the Wind. Mrs. Bouvier wondered if Jackie might one day become a writer. After kindergarten, she started first grade at Miss Chapin's school on East End Avenue in New York. One of her teachers, Miss Platt, thought Jackie was a darling child, the prettiest little girl, very clever, very artistic, and full of the devil. Though she was sometimes mischievous, which led to being sent to the headmistress, her report card noted, Jacqueline was given a D in form because her disturbing conduct in her geography class made it necessary to exclude her from the room. When Jackie was 10 years old, her parents divorced, which was particularly tough for her, especially since few children had divorced parents at that time. Coming from a Catholic family, she also faced the church's disapproval of divorces. This period made Jackie even more private, keeping her thoughts to herself. Despite the challenges, Jackie had many advantages in life. She took classical ballet lessons at the old Metropolitan Opera House and began learning French. In 1942, when she was about to turn 13, her mother married a businessman named Hugh Auchincloss, who had children from previous marriages. Besides her younger sister, Lee, Jackie now had two stepbrothers, Yusha and Tommy, and a stepsister, Nina. In June 1947, Jackie graduated from Miss Porter's School, a boarding school for girls in Connecticut. She continued her education at Vassar College in New York, studying history, literature, art, and French. Jackie spent her junior year abroad in Paris, living with the Duranty family. She later wrote about her experience in Paris, expressing her love for Europe and her newfound appreciation for knowledge. Returning to the United States, she transferred to George Washington University to finish her last year of college, preferring to be in the city and closer to her family. In the fall of 1951, Jackie started her first job as the inquiring camera girl for the Washington Times-Herald newspaper. She moved around the city, taking pictures of people and asking them questions on various issues. She even interviewed Richard M. Nixon and covered significant events, like Dwight D. Eisenhower's first inauguration and Queen Elizabeth II's coronation. During this time, Jackie met John Kennedy, who was a congressman and soon-to-be senator from Massachusetts. They married on September 12, 1953, at St. Mary's Church in Newport, Rhode Island. After their honeymoon in Mexico, they returned to Washington, D.C. Early in their marriage, Senator Kennedy suffered crippling back pain from football and wartime injuries, leading to 2 operations. While recovering, Jackie encouraged him to write a book about U.S. senators who had risked their careers for their beliefs. Profiles in Courage won the Pulitzer Prize for Biography in 1957. The same year their first child, Caroline, was born. In January 1960, Senator Kennedy announced his candidacy for the presidency. Jackie often accompanied him on the campaign trail. When she learned she was pregnant, her doctors advised her to stay home. From there, she answered campaign letters, taped TV commercials, gave interviews, and wrote a weekly newspaper column, Campaign Wife. On November 8, 1960, John F. Kennedy narrowly defeated Richard M. Nixon in the presidential race. 2.5 weeks later, Jackie gave birth to their second child, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. Jackie was different, and it was what made her loved. What exactly made her stand out, setting a standard? At just 31 years old, Jacqueline brought her gracious style and passion for history and the arts to the White House. She was dedicated to her role, but always prioritized being a good wife and mother. She once told a reporter, "If you bungle raising your children, I don't think whatever else you do well matters very much." One of her first major projects as First Lady was restoring the White House. She wanted it to be a real home for her family and a place that represented American history and culture. She turned the sun porch into a kindergarten for Caroline and other children and added a swimming pool, bowling set, and treehouse on the lawn for Caroline and John Jr. She also worked on restoring the public rooms, gathering American art and furniture, and even presented a televised tour of the newly restored White House, which earned her an honorary Emmy Award. The Kennedys brought a youthful spirit to the White House, celebrating American history, culture, and achievement. Jacqueline planned important dinners and events, inviting artists, writers, scientists, poets, and musicians to mingle with politicians and diplomats. Many appreciated her efforts, including world-renowned violinist Isaac Stern, who thanked her for bringing serious attention and respect for the arts to the White House. Jacqueline also influenced fashion with her unique style. Though she discouraged excessive focus on her appearance, Jacqueline traveled with her husband, representing the United States abroad. Her trips to Paris, Vienna, and Greece were so successful that Clark Clifford, a respected lawyer and advisor to President Kennedy, praised her for capturing the imagination of people worldwide and transforming it into an important asset for the nation. She also traveled to Italy, India, and Pakistan, earning admiration for her interest in other cultures and her ability to speak several foreign languages.
Tragedy struck on August 7, 1963, when Jacqueline gave birth to their third child, Patrick Bouvier Kennedy, who died 2 days later from a lung ailment. Just a few months later, on November 22, 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. Jacqueline became a widow at 34 and planned the president's state funeral, which was broadcast worldwide, earning her admiration for her courage and dignity.
After President Kennedy's death, Jacqueline worked on creating the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum as a memorial to her husband. She chose architect I.M. Pei to design the building, which now stands as a landmark overlooking Boston Harbor. In 1968, Jacqueline married Greek shipping magnate Aristotle Onassis. After his death in 1975, she became a widow for the second time. With her children older, Jacqueline started a new career as an editor at Viking Press and later moved to Doubleday as a senior editor. She enjoyed a successful publishing career until her death on May 19, 1994. Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis was laid to rest beside President Kennedy in Arlington National Cemetery. Throughout her life, Jacqueline Kennedy worked to preserve and protect America's cultural heritage. Her efforts are still visible today in places like Lafayette Square and Grand Central Station. She captivated the nation and the world with her intelligence, beauty, and grace, dedicating herself to raising her children and making the world a better place through art, literature, and a respect for history and public service. What do you think of the relationship between Lee and Jacqueline? Did Lee truly live in her sister's shadows? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.